Welcome to another episode of JNA News Dash, where two full-time realtors turn into part-time newscasters. So if you're watching this from overseas, you've come to the right place where we'll be sharing with you the news from the past week. My name is Geraldine.
My name is Lucas.
So we'll be sharing with you about what actually happened from the past week. So we're seeing a lot of interesting news from HDB resale price performance, some of the new launches that happened from the past week, and also some co-working practices that's going to be introduced maybe in 2024.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So what do we have here?
Okay, so HDB resale flat prices in Singapore continuing upwards for the 29th straight month.
Wow. Okay, so we're seeing the HDB resale prices in 2023, despite cooling measures that were introduced late last year in 2022. Yeah. We're seeing that, even with this, the market is still resilient, increasing by about 0.5%.
Yeah, right. And it's expected to rise at a slower rate, but it is still rising. It's increasingly difficult, right, for potential buyers to go into a HDB flat nowadays.
Yeah, so we saw that, in November, about $5 million HDB were sold. And this were not in prime locations like Tanjong Pagar, if you were wondering if it's actually in, Duxton or it's in Pinnacle, but it's actually in the outskirts of Singapore. Like
Toa Payoh.
Yeah.
Even my hometown, Bukit Panjang.
Yeah.
I never thought Bukit Panjang would actually reach $1 million.
Yeah, so it's actually so common now to see HDBs transacting at $1 million. Before it was like, wow, that's so crazy. But now it's like, another $1 million HDB transacted.
Yes, and I think that's the sentiment on the ground, right? I was speaking with a friend just yesterday, and he said, wow, now I want to buy any HDB also $1 million.
Yeah.
Which, okay, what you see on the news, right, is of course the $1 million HDB flats, but there are still flats reasonably priced. We can't escape from the fact that yes, prices are higher now, and there are more $1 million HDB flats, but not all HDB flats are $1 million.
Yeah, you know how everyone likes to ask, what would you do if you have $1 million? Like I'll buy HDB flat and that's it. Like I can't buy anything anymore. If you're in Singapore, that's all you get. Okay, if you're wondering like what you would do with $1 million, it's actually not much.
So the rebound in the number of resale flats sold in November, right, suggests also that there's actually a growing trend for larger flats in non-mature estates. And I think we can kind of guess where this purchases are coming from.
Yeah. So, in terms of, this is actually not only for HDBs, but also for condos, especially post-COVID. I think for the 1.5 years where we were all stuck in the house, we learned to appreciate, bigger spaces where, everyone wants like an extra room for their study, as their office space. For a couple, when they're okay with a 2-bedder, but now they're actually looking for a 3-bedder because they want to use the 3-bedder as their office space, as their study room. And same thing for our HDBs. They would always appreciate bigger space, executive maisonette or mansionette. Mansionette.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
actually, wait. Now that you say mansionette, no, not mansionette, maisonette. How do you pronounce it?
You can comment down in the comment box below on how to pronounce
mansionette.
Yeah, but that's, these are always the higher, the type of condos and HDB size flats that's always highly demanded in the market, and it's something that always gets snapped up super fast. And also the type of flats that people are willing to pay a higher COV for. Yeah,
and I also see quite a bit of volume from downgraders because of the high prices of property prices overall, right? Even the private property owners, they are taking this opportunity to actually sell their flats at a higher price and then buying HDBs, which is where all these $1 million purchases are coming from, right? Yeah. So of course, private homeowners, when they move to a HDB flat, they want a bigger space.
Yeah. So some suggestions that on the ground or in the news that's saying, how can we actually stabilize the HDB prices so that it doesn't get too expensive and it's still we're still able to maintain the affordability that the government wants for HDB flats. Which one is to actually introduce more supply in the market, and second, maybe introduce a more impactful cooling measure, because the cooling measure that happened last year, we don't really see much of an impact, just slightly, but not too much.
Yes. So the government will be monitoring the market. I'm sure they are doing so all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, as prices continue to rise, I think we can probably expect more cooling measures in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Next up. So this is super crazy news. We see that there were 368 units sold at Jayden launch, and for your information, this was actually about 88% of what they had in their pipeline.
Yes. And that's crazy, right? 368 units, 88%, right? And that's a very healthy figure considering that prices for new launches have been continually on the uptick.
Yeah.
And it's no different for Jayden because they sold at an average of $2,451 per square foot.
Yeah.
That's
so when Grand Dunman, it was launched, and then we also had Tembusu Grand at 2004, 2005. Actually, at that time, Tembusu was still at 2003. Everyone was saying that is so crazy that D15 can achieve at such a price. But we need to consider that Tembusu is actually in RCR in D15.
Yes.
And Jayden is actually in OCR in Jurong East.
Yeah. So we'll go through some of the reasons why Jayden has possibly been so popular this time around, right? And but what we're also seeing is that 99% of the buyers are Singaporeans and PRs, right?
Yeah.
With close to 60% aged 40 years and below. So actually around our age range, right?
Yeah. So we are rarely seeing foreign buyers now as compared to before when it was at 30% ABSD. So this cooling measure of introducing 60% ABSD for foreigners has really impacted the market quite a bit, especially in the CCR area.
Yes. And although it's like 88% sold, not 100% sold, but the number of checks that they received was 1,261. That's 3.4 times
the number of units they have, for Jayden.
Yeah, very heavy interest.
Okay. So one thing that a lot of the buyers really liked for Jayden was actually the location appeal, because the home buyers, they were drawn to the location and also the surrounding amenities where Jurong Lake Gardens is.
Yes. And let's not forget that Jurong Lake District is going to be the second largest CBD area in Singapore in a few years' time.
Yeah. So maybe we can share a little bit more on what the anticipation and interest lies in with Jayden, on why we were able to get so many checks at 1,200 plus.
Before that, I actually want to talk about another new launch that happened in the same weekend as Jayden that didn't see the same results.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let's go into Hillock Green. And Hillock Green is at Lentor.
Yeah.
Right. And
so we saw that Hillock Green sold about 131 units out of the 474. So if you're looking at percentage-wise in comparison, the take-up rate is 27.6% compared to Jayden, which sold 88%.
And this is the most shocking thing, right? Lentor sold at 2,108
per square foot.
And let's bring it back to Jayden, which sold at
2,400.
My goodness.
Yeah.
This Lentor.
And we're also seeing that there were some new land bids that actually came up. We can probably share with you guys in the next news dash.
Yeah.
We're seeing crazy land bids. And when we calculated the potential PSF, considering the location, we just feel like it's not justified because we are selling quite a few CCR projects. I mean, CCR development, resale units. And a lot of this are actually freehold for 2,100 PSF.
Yeah.
So if I'm a buyer, I would actually really consider CCR market right now. I'm just really a pro CCR person right now because there's such a huge price gap considering the location and also the tenure where you can get a freehold for the same price in a better location.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about the current property market, we have our investment team that you can always speak to, who is always looking at properties every single day. So do hit us up.
Yeah, so there was more investor interest in the 3 and 4 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So definitely at this price is a good buy for larger units.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
they had a special 11/11 promotion.
Yes, Singles Day promotion.
Singles Day. Yeah, so maybe we can share a little bit more on the difference on why there was so much demand in Jayden as compared to Hillock Green. I mean, one, it would probably be the location appeal, and then maybe we can share a little bit more on the others.
Yes, so there's a lot of pent-up demand in the Jurong area, right? There's a lot of HDB upgraders in the area. So definitely there's a lot of interest from there. And the buyers, typically they want to buy something that they're familiar with, the area, the district that they're familiar with. So there's definitely a lot more HDB upgraders into Jayden as compared to Lentor.
Yeah,
right?
and also the transformation that's going to be happening in Jurong East area.
Yes, that's right. The Jurong Lake District, as I mentioned before, the second largest CBD that's going to be in Singapore. And thirdly, Hillock Green is going to be an integrated estate.
Yeah. So buyers buying Jayden also do get the first mover advantage, since Jurong Lake District is going to have a lot of transformation in the next 5 years.
Yep.
And we're also seeing that, Jayden is actually a mixed-use development directly linked to the MRT. So they're also probably paying for that slight premium. Usually for mixed-use developments, that's what you have to pay for with the convenience that you actually get. Right?
Singaporeans love their MRT stations.
Yeah. MRT stations, especially if it's underground, you don't have to walk outside under the sun.
Yeah.
You pay for that price.
Yes. As compared to Hillock Green, where with the launch of Lentor Hills and Lentor Modern, you've kind of already lost the first mover's advantage.
Yeah.
But even though the price wise is still nice, right? At 2001. But I think that there's not that many HDB upgraders in Lentor. It's a mostly landed area, right? And furthermore, because there's still available units at Lentor Hills and Lentor Modern, people who want to move into Lentor have already probably considered those two.
Yeah, they have a lot of options right now in the market in Lentor area.
Yeah, and let's not forget there's one more coming up in the Lentor area, Lentor Gardens. So a lot of new launches in the Lentor area. It's a very new residential area for condos, right? And yeah, I think that it's just kind of lost the, I wouldn't say lost momentum, but I think the momentum will actually slowly pick up as slowly the development happens and it starts to look like, hey, this looks like a pretty nice place.
Yeah, so overall, we are seeing that buyers just generally prefer projects that are close to amenities and actually have a decent growth story in the surrounding area. That's the trend that we usually see with highly demanded launches.
Yes. So before you buy your next new launch, right, it's good to consult with a team like ours. That's a shout out for us. Our investment team really looks into the numbers and the profitability that you can have, right, for your next purchase.
Yeah. So next up, we're seeing that property agencies have signed an MOU to promote transparency and fairness in co-broking practices in the real estate industry.
Yes. So just a bit of backstory of what this is about, right? Right now, I think everyone's pretty familiar when you go and when you buy or sell your property, typically for private transactions, the seller will pay their agent and the buyer will just go and see the house. If they like the house and they have an agent with them, the buyer's agent will actually take the commission from the seller's agent.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of gray area, that's happening underneath all these negotiations.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the main objective on why we want to promote transparency and fairness is because just to share, to be transparent on how listing agents and buyer agents actually get their commission. So sometimes seller agents, the owners, the sellers, they will actually pay their seller agent based on tiered commission. So for example, if let's say you're selling a 2 million property, but the owner said, if you're able to sell this at 2.1, then I'll give you a higher commission. Maybe let's say 2 million, you're selling at 2%. And then maybe if you get 2.1 million, I'll give you about 2.5%.
Yeah.
So the higher you go, the higher commission that they would actually pay you. So this is one way where actually seller agents would incentivize the buyer agents to help the owner get a higher price.
Yes.
And if let's say you're actually engaging a buyer agent who is representing not your interest but their own interest to get a higher commission for themselves, then of course they would want you to pay higher so that they're able to get a higher commission.
Yes.
But then in this case, there will be a conflict of interest because they're supposed to represent you to get a lower price instead of you paying a higher price for them to get a higher commission. So this is where the conflict comes in.
Yes. So to put it in context, if a buyer's agent is taking his salary from the seller's agent, then the seller actually gets to dictate, right, to the buyer's agent to push up his client's offer.
Of course, this is good for the sellers because they're able to get a higher price. But of course, if you're the buyer, then you're on the shorter end of the stick.
Yes, that's right. So the agencies, right, they're slowly moving into standardizing the co-broking arrangements to ensure that the property agents are fairly remunerated according to these best practices.
So the objective of introducing this MOU is, of course, to ensure there's transparency and fairness in the real estate industry, especially for agents, since buyer agents, they don't really have like a standard practice on how they should be remunerated in this situation. So one of the way that was suggested in the MOU is to actually have buyers pay their agents instead of co-broking, because then this would help to avoid the conflict of interest on whether or not the buyer agent should be protecting their commission or to actually put their client's interest first.
Yes, that's right. And of course, all this is an MOU, meaning it's not policy. It is just the agencies agreeing to move their agents forward with these type of practices so that, it's more fair for the clients.
Yeah. So we've actually dealt with buyers who actually paid us the agent fee as compared to us collecting it from the seller's agent. And, sometimes, let's say you're paying about 10K in terms of buyer's agent's fee. But if let's say we're able to source a deal for you that's about 200K below valuation, then you see the difference is you actually get to save about $190,000 in terms of savings.
Yes, it makes sense. And the seller's agent actually do want to work with us. They want to co-broke with us because
they're more than open to actually co-broke with us.
Yeah, because they don't have to share their commission, right? When all the other buyers agents are actually asking for like 0.5% or 1% of their commission. For us, they don't have to pay. They don't have to share with us anything, right? And they're more willing to negotiate with us. Yeah,
and they also sometimes we do come across agents who are less willing to co-broke because of that 0.5% to 1% commission that they don't get to keep for themselves. We do see the difference that, they would be more open to share with us about why the seller is selling, how much the seller is willing to close. And this helps us as your buyer's agent to help you get a better deal.
Yes. And the other thing is, of course, it's already policy that according to CEA, that sellers agents are not allowed to say that they don't want to co-broke. They have to share the commission, although it's not stipulated how much to share, right? But there are some sellers agents who just don't want to share anything, but they of course can't say it. So what happens? They just don't reply your message, or just really slow, or just become very difficult when negotiating.
So I think especially for first-time home buyers who have never dealt with, property negotiation or property sourcing before, it would actually be of advantage for you, because then we would be able to help you assist in, sourcing the right property with the right entry price, and also guiding you through the negotiation until the closing. Yes.
And I mean, we get it. For a long time, the market has not needed to pay the buyer's agent. It's going to take a while, right, for the market to actually accept this, right? So I think when the buyer's agent is able to show their
value, the services that we're able to offer.
And the savings that they can get, right? It actually makes a lot of sense.
So that's all that we actually have for this week. Any questions that you guys have, feel free to reach out.
Yes. Please join our Telegram group. That's where you can, be updated on our investment news, our, news dash every week. And of course, we have partners coming up where you can get special, the holidays are coming
for
up.
Christmas.
Yes, the holidays deals are coming up soon, right? And you'll be able to get all these great deals on our Telegram channel. Right over here. You can scan this QR code.
Okay, so that's all for the week. Thank you so much for watching another episode of JNA News Dash. This is Geraldine.
This is Lucas.
Bye-bye.
Bye.